All right, disturbing new evidence linking ISIS and 8 American jihadis, including the Boston Marathon bombers who were brothers, all to one Boston mosque. This as feds investigate a Minnesota group of Somali Americans allegedly conspiring to join terrorists in Syria and dozens who may already be there. What needs to be done to eradicate the homegrown terror threat once and for all? Here to weigh in is the president of American Islamic Forum for Democracies and a retired U.S. Navy officer, Dr. Zuhdi Jasser. Dr. Jasser, does it surprise you that some of this terrorist fervor can be centralized to 2 locations?
No, not at all. I mean, we've been talking about this how many years now? Since 9/11, since November 5th, Fort Hood, and we've seen from this mosque in Boston, Tariq Mahena, Afia Siddiqui, who was Lady Al-Qaeda, the Imam Qardawi globally, who was on their board with, and was also one of the spiritual guides of the Global Muslim Brotherhood. Come on, this isn't self-radicalization. That's hogwash. The reality is that these people are like the alcoholics who sit around and hand around the bottle and then say, oh no, we took away their keys. We don't have anything to do with their drunk driving. Well, it's not about violent extremism. It's about the ideology, and Muslims that want to address the ideology of jihadization and Islamo-patriotism that pulls these radicals into the Middle East and into groups like Al-Qaeda. We get marginalized, we're told we're anti-Muslim, and yet we love our faith and we're trying to reform it. And from the government to media to Muslim leadership, nobody wants to address the ideology.
You know, the latest guy who's head of communications over with ISIS right now is hardly a wayward soul looking for a stable family. He comes from a stable family. He is highly educated. So you can't say, well, in America, we just couldn't find a way to fit in, so we're angry. You can't say that, maybe like the Boston bombers were saying. So forget about just saying that, you know, America hasn't opened their arms to you. What is the problem?
The problem is because of political correctness, because of this insulation of minority rights protection, nobody wants to address that Ahmad Abu Samra, this propagandist for ISIS, was radicalized by a continuum that taught him that jihad was the ultimate way, that America was at fault, that anti-Islamic fervor and bigotry against Muslims was the cause for our plight. And no, the Muslims who want to address reform, the right, theocratic ideology of political Islam, we get marginalized. And, you know, how many more do we need before America wakes up and says, you know, let's hold Muslim leadership accountable for the ideologies that are radicalizing all of these youth, now over 300 serving. We got two
options. One, those Muslims who love this country will say, there's a crazy guy next to me, keep an eye on him, to law enforcement. Or number 2, we start putting our own people in there. We tried that in New York City. We get a new mayor who said, the first thing I'm doing is pulling those people out. So we no longer have a looking glass into what's going on between those walls.
That's the key, is drop the violent extremism nonsense and focus on Muslims that are pro-American, pro-Western, and anti-jihadist and anti-Islamist. That's the key. We're not doing it.
They could be our best sources, and if we don't utilize them, we're screwed. Dr. Zuhdi Jasser, thanks so much.
Anytime. Thank you.
All right, coming up straight.